And now I will ask Christian Lach to join me up here on stage, so to speak. And I would now like to switch to the last item on the agenda, punctually, I'd say. All the presentations and also the recording of the stream can be found on the homepage of the Dialog Forum. We'll show it to you after the summary of Christian Lach. I believe that we couldn't answer all the questions, but I have seen that a whole number of questions could be answered, and I think that maybe some ongoing dialogue makes sense. We are very pleased if you we are expecting your feedback maybe on how you like the forum. Do you need a second forum, maybe for other questions or more room for questions? Because today there was more input rather than discussion, more information than exchange. So you can ask further questions, which we can answer bilaterally, and I will show you the homepage and an email address for that. And now, the last words of Dr. Christian Lach. He is project leader for what we call ChemCycling, so our method on chemical recycling. And let's summarize.
Thank you very much. Well, I was glad to see so many participants here. And first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Vogel of the German Federal Environmental Agency, Mr. Bautz of Südpark, Carlos Monreal of Plastic Energy, Kjetil Böhn of Quantafuel, Professor Asapagic of Ethos Research, and her colleagues Florian Anthony and Simon Henn. And thank you to Professor Stapf of KIT. Last but not least, also thank you very much to Mr. Evan of Remondis. I'd also like to thank everybody for the active participation in our event. We had 18 computers that were logged on, and I think there was not one person in front of the computer during the meetings, so many people participated. And thank you very much for having shared your views on environmentally friendly approaches regarding chemical recycling. And of course, I'd like to thank you for all the questions coming in later, and thank you also for the willingness to bilateral discussions afterwards. I'd like to apologize for the fact that some people apparently were not able to dial in, but as mentioned before, the recording will be available via our website if you weren't able to dial in. And I noted down that I was supposed to summarize the core issues, and I learned there always have to be 3 core points. First of all, the input, well, this was wrong. The first thing is the yield of pyrolysis, that is about 70% oil. And with some technical development, we can hope for reaching 80%. 10% of the mass produced is used as gas for heating, and the remaining 10%, more or less, in form of ash, are disposed of for street constructions in our study. And based on the basic conditions, regulations of EU and the different countries, our colleagues mentioned what the emissions look like for chemical recycling. And of course, all the plants, as we are in the EU, are subject to the very strict EU regulations when it comes to emissions. The feedstocks, we always heard of the NK350, and also post-sorting that takes place where metals or paper is removed, means that about 90% polyethylene, polypropylene, polystyrene, and hydrogen are used. PET and PVC are not being used, cannot be used, and other plastics account for a little less than 5%, and this is tolerable. The mixed plastics used are materials that cannot be used in mechanical recycling. I think in chemical recycling, I think this was what everybody agreed on here. The output at the end of the chain the plastics from chemical recycling, and here we have to point out that they have virgin quality, and the quality is no different from the materials based on fossil raw materials, so they can be used for sophisticated applications such as materials in contact with food that we discussed, or strictly specified applications such as in the automotive industry. On the other hand, our LCA showed that only 50% of CO2 emissions occur here compared to a fossil-based material. And depending on the application and the plastic fraction, we are in the same energy efficiency region as the mechanically recycled products. What I really appreciated was that the participants agreed on the fact that we are looking for a definition of how chemical and mechanical recycling can be viewed, and that chemical recycling can complement mechanical recycling. And we should mention that the regulatory approach in Germany still is pending. This is an issue we need to address, as Dr. Vogel mentioned in the beginning. But I think the crucial question here is, where is the transition and how do these topics match? And what we saw flashing up here was that chemical recycling maybe is not one single standard technology, but that we need to combine remonomerizing, pyrolysis, and pyrolysis of different waste streams. And I think here we will see quite an exciting question cropping up. And this means that we only discussed one life cycle assessment here today, which represents one specific example. In the discussion of the LCA, we heard that in addition to this one single broadly based standard application, specific solutions for specific waste streams for specific applications are required. This is something BASF takes a look at on the basis of ChemCycling. For every loop we close, for every customer we work with, we have to generate specific figures. If we had discussed this as well today, I think this would have been too much for the few hours we had, but I'm glad to see so many colleagues who take an active part, and maybe we can show a depiction that I had on my mind in recent days. This is the Pew study published in Science of the Pew Foundation and Systemic, which shows what we need to do in order to solve the plastic problem we have. I always look into the yellow and red areas at the bottom. This is the mismanaged waste, the waste that doesn't end up where it can be disposed of in a good way, and the yellow area of waste which is not used in the best possible way. And we have to reduce the red curve much sooner than shown here. In the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, BASF tries to contribute to this. And the yellow, this is landfill waste or incinerated waste, I think we have to reduce this volume in order to reach this very, very small, very light green area, to make this bigger in order to reduce, for example, incineration. I'm glad and I would say inspired to have seen so many excited and active participants here. And of course, your questions contribute to asking ourselves, is it correct what we do? How can we improve? So we'd be glad, Torsten, you already mentioned it, if the dialogue does not end today, but if we had follow-up meetings like this one. And we'd be glad if you contacted us actively. We will show you the addresses on the next chart. where you can find the recording of the Dialog Forum. I guess you will see the chart pretty soon. The goal today was to ask the justified technical and environmentally related questions, and the political aspects, the further discussion, how this is supposed to become part of national legislation, how standards are supposed to be defined, what kind of volumes should be recycled in future, and what kind of waste is recycled in what way, and what kind of classifications we then have for the recycled waste, are interesting topics for the future and for other forums. I hope and look forward to finding stakeholders who will actively shape other forums. If you're interested, please let us know. You just saw the contact details there on the chart that we will show again so that everybody can copy the details. Thank you very much from our part. I really enjoyed it. I hope it meant progress, and I look forward to a continuation of this dialogue. Thank you, and I hope we will see the chart again with the website. Thank you very much, and goodbye.